Welcome to the Fly Culture Podcast, bringing you interviews, reviews and fishing tips. Here's your host, Pete Tyger.
Often the rain will keep me awake at night. At home, if it rains heavy, there's a good chance the river's going to come up. I'm back on the chalk streams though, so although it's a little bit of it has been a miserable day, the rain's stopped now, but I'm back on the chalk streams. I'm fishing with my great friend Brett O'Connor, and we're going to go fishing. I'm going to take you onto the river with me, and hope you enjoy this trip on the very latest Fly Culture podcast. So today we're fishing the Anton. Thanks to Pete McLeod and Alex as well for allowing us to book a day. And when I'm in this neck of the woods, it's always a pleasure to catch up, as I said, with my very, very good friend Brett O'Connor. We've just got here. I've had my first glimpse of the water. It's a real proper small stream. Really, really lovely. Where I'm standing now, it's probably only 10 foot across. It looks like it widens out a little bit further upstream. Brett's fished here before. I think he's done some guiding here in the past as well, and said there's a bridge just a short distance downstream that has a nice gully in it with some fish. You can probably hear him setting up his kit now, the sound of a lovely reel now as he's getting that ready. But it looks really cool. I'm sort of already scanning the water looking for some rising fish, see if there's any signs there. I'm told, Alex said to me that they'd been having some nice grayling as well, so I'm excited to see those. As I always say, not really getting a shot at grayling at home. It's always exciting to be able to do that. But my buddy, as I said, is setting up at the moment. Brett, as always, it's an absolute pleasure to see you. I managed to meet round your house and meet your lovely family as well to start the day as well, which was I'm fueled by copious cups of coffee as well, so I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm excited. But buddy, how you doing?
I'm really good, mate. Obviously, like you said, it's great to see you again, being back on the river. We had a bit of a shower this morning, but it's all stopped now. So let's hope that's the end of the rain and we can enjoy the little session ahead.
We've got a really civilised one planned as well, that we're just going to take our time, and often when we fish together we just sort of take it in turns or fish close to each other. I'm sure that's how it will play out as well. So I'll keep you in touch with how it's going. I'll do my very best to describe what we're doing, how we're doing it, if we see a rising fish, what's going to happen, or if we have to chuck a nymph in as well. We'll see how that all plays out. But I'm really looking forward to going fishing, and hope you'll enjoy this one. So we started in the slot that Brett mentioned, and we'd seen a fish rise, so I had a dry fly on. Brett's got a lone nymph, and made a cast. I had a fish sort of come and nose the fly but not take it. Cast again, and had a grayling of about a pound or so. I'm just sort of standing watching. Yep. Oh, sorry about that, everyone. It looked like there was that's the former guide in me. Whenever I see that go, I thought that was a fish eating the fly. But I can see, again, I talk so many times about the chalk stream and the ability to see these fish. And I can stand here now. I'm using a bush as cover, and I can see these fish in the water. The water's not very deep. I'd say, chalk stream, crystal clear water is hard to judge, but I wouldn't think it's much more than 18 inches deep, possibly a tiny bit more in the deepest bit, and I can see fish sitting in there. Some of them are high in the water. I'm just watching one of them now. Yeah, he looked like he had a nymph just coming up through the water there, so it's going to be really interesting to see if we get someone come and play on Brett's nymph pattern. What have you got on, bud? What nymph have you got on? So he's got a little redneck pheasant tail on at the moment, size 18 or 20, so a small one. I can see fish further up the pool, high in the water, moving around. The ones he's casting on, the nymphs, are exactly the right choice. Oh, I thought that was the one then as well. I'm watching, he seems, the one at the back I can see really clearly, seems relatively indifferent to it at the moment. But just, being able to see these fish right now, there's sort of where the weed has been scoured a little bit, they're sort of sitting in there at the moment. I've seen a small fish rise just to the left as well. I can just about make that out as well. But it's not great fish spotting conditions, but it's great to be able to creep into position and watch everything as it's actually unfolding at the moment. He's made a cast a little bit more to the left, towards the fish I just described that I'd seen sort of splash at a dry. But it's sort of going down there at the moment unmolested. We shall see how this plays out. I wouldn't be at all surprised if somebody shows some interest in this very, very shortly, though. And as we hoped, we were chatting. This is just a few seconds after I last recorded that, and I said to Brett that the one at the back, like I described, seemed indifferent, but there's one came and had a look, and he's got a beautiful brown trout on there. Yeah, it's a really nice fish, actually. Pulling hard as well, isn't it? It's put up a good fight. It's trying to. Dirty. That's exactly the term I was going to use. There's a small footbridge here, and it was looking like he was sort of aiming to get down into that to try and break him off. But nicely done, mate. Great fishing. This really is, I know the term's used a lot, an epic fight, but this thing is trying to get him in the weed. It's trying to do everything. But I think Brett is just about to net it. It's just about coming now. Nicely done, mate. Nicely done. Great job, buddy. So I've just had a quick go with the dry. We thought we had a fish that was a player. And it may have been the one that bumped my dry earlier. I changed and put on a pearl butter merger as well. Brett's right over his nymph's gone, yep. Oh, fish just turned on that fly. I don't think it committed fully. Yeah, Brett's saying he didn't feel it as well. So kind of interesting, but there's 2 or 3 fish sort of just sitting down here, milling around at the moment, and he's still got that redneck pheasant tail on. And I'm just watching it drift down the left side of the fish at the moment. But yeah, it's been fascinating. There's a tree overhanging the other side as well. That there's a couple of fish moved in there, and I've sort of, in my mind, playing out how I'd make a cast to them, because I'm still using this tree on our side. We're standing on true right bank at the moment as my cover, and that's going to scupper my back cast if I go for these guys under the tree. So that's one I'm kind of thinking about at the moment as well. But I'm watching Brett work the water now, and yeah, it feels every little drift through there. There's a chance, but not that time. Don't know that they've wised up at the moment. They've not sort of shot off, and my experience of chalk stream fish is that when they're a little bit spooky, they're not like our fish at home that they'll run off and dart. They sort of circle round, and you sense that nervousness, that anxiousness from the fish. They're not doing that. They're sort of sitting there at the moment. So I don't think anything's changed on that front at the moment. Fish coming, yeah, they just seem off the boil a little bit. I thought that was it, but it was just a nymph hitting the bottom then. But he's sort of, every shot's a money shot, and looks a great one as well. But yeah, it looks as though they're becoming a little bit more circumspect without being super nervy. This is going right over a fish this second, but no, I think that was just weed, wasn't it? Just clipped the weed. Again, yeah, it's right over a fish. Just saw his tail twitch a little bit, but no movement lateral or anything that suggests he was interested in it. And again, that's one of the cool things that you can sort of, it doesn't always indicate on the line if a fish has taken it, but you can look for that sign of the fish darting left or right to intercept the nymph, or that little bit of movement, the flash of the gills. One's just moved out, mate. If you just throw towards the branch in that, still in the sandy stuff, once he's pretty high in the water, you got him? Yeah. So Brett can see him, so he's going to make a slightly longer cast upstream now. Just behind him, Bud, there. It's a little bit 3 or 4 feet further on, I think. And that's the nice thing when you fish with a friend as well, being able to sort of guide each other, I guess, a little bit. You know, I can get this cover and still manage to spot a fish for him because he's downstream a tiny bit. And it's interesting just that, oh, that was close. I think a tiny bit, a little bit more right, bud, but that length. You can spot that fish. Where you're standing, where you're casting from, you can't see as clearly. So that's the really cool thing about fishing with a buddy, that you can sort of spot those little nuances. Still a tiny bit more right, I think, bud. And you can help your friend with a cast, and sometimes, just sometimes, you get lucky. So we've only walked up a few feet with the other side of the tree I was talking about, and I've thrown at a dry at a fish that looked at it a couple of times but didn't eat it. Brett's just giving him the nymph now, just to see if that's gonna. He looks like he's a player, but somebody's just. I thought somebody just turned on it then. Yeah, it's just going under the branches. It's not the easiest cast in the world. There's a branch coming right down into the water. Then about 5 or 6 feet further up, there's a branch hanging down, probably about 8 or 9 feet above the water. So you've got to sort of aim your cast in there. That fish is still there. He looks like he is a player. We're going to see. Brett's just casting at him now. This, if he's going to eat it, he'll eat this one, I would think. Wow. No, that looks nailed on. I thought you had him. We were going to have him there. That was a really interesting one. One more cast with that. Then I'm again thinking about my dry fly choice, and having had a half-hearted peck. I've had a fish, a grayling. Oh, it's just going over the fish now. No, he doesn't want that. Doesn't want that at all. So it may be we have to think things through a little bit, or it may be that he's seen a little bit too much and doesn't want to play. Like I was just previously saying, he's not displaying any signs of being wary of anything. He's quite happily holding his position at the moment and seems relatively happy, but he doesn't want to eat that fly, that's for sure. We sort of walked upstream a little ways with the conditions. I guess where we started, it felt like it was going to be one of those wonderful days, but it's still wonderful. Don't get me wrong there, but it's not been as easy. Easy is the wrong word. It's not playing out how those initial few casts looked like they would. The rain's come in though, and I think the cloud has taken the temperature up a little bit, and we had some small grayling rising. We sort of watched those for a little bit, and Brett popped on a dry for a short time and then has gone back to the nymph. He knows this fishery a little bit, and I think preempting the next little spots that he feels there might be the chance for a fish. I've gone down small. I fished a midge pattern about a 18, 20, and then I've got smaller still, a tiny little emerger pattern, just to see if that might provoke some interest if I see a rising fish. But as I said, aside from those small grayling, one trout sort of takes something in the water column, not right off the top, but that's been about it for the time being. So we'll just keep wandering up. It's been lovely just catching up. It's lovely seeing the water that we're fishing. And like I say, it's not particularly wide, it's not particularly deep. So you're getting a really good chance to see the fish. And that's been really great fun. I'm standing on a small footbridge at the moment looking down. Brett's going to make some casts. It was interesting because you could see the river sort of picked up a little bit of pace, and I assumed it was going to drop into a much deeper pot, but it's actually the pot here, and I can see it. I'm sort of keeping myself as covered as best I possibly can. Actually, I've just seen a fish rise in that pot as well, which is kind of exciting as well. But Brett's going to throw his nymph in there and see if there's anyone home there. Just seeing a little, I don't know if that was a blue wing, just fly above me there, coinciding with that rise. I think that may have been a grayling that rose in there, but I can see some ephemera just starting to hatch now, which is really exciting. I'm looking upstream and I can see a fish probably 50 feet. Yeah, there's a couple of fish rising in front of me, which is really encouraging. I can see one from this distance, my elevated position, who's rising quite happily. He's high in the water and I can see him clear as anything. And it's, really, really cool to see. But I'm sure I'll report some exciting news, or I hope I'll be able to report some exciting news as Brett makes his cast out into that pot. I know I mention it a lot when I talk about chalk streams and the ability to see the fish, but I'm just watching, as I said, from this high position upstream of me, a fish working the water and how high he is in the water, but how far he'll move when the right thing comes along. And that's really exciting to be able to see that and see, yeah, he's moving a fair distance. He's sort of tight to the true right bank, but then comes right out if the right morsel comes along and picks it off. He's just followed something downstream, and I can see him quite happily rising. Oh, and I look downstream and Brett's already into a fish, which is really cool. Is that a brownie, bud? Oh, he's caught a really nice grayling. It almost looked as though it tried to swim through his legs there as well. So I'm going to walk back down into position, and I might get a sense of what the fish looks like and go from there. But it looks though the nymph's winning the day, certainly so far. But looks a really nice fish. That's a beauty, mate. That's a beauty. What do you reckon? A pound and a bit? Pound and a bit. Really, really pretty fish. Nicely done, bud. It was no good. So I'd seen Brett catch a really beautiful wild brown trout from the pool I was describing, and I was talking about the fish upstream, so it was no good. I had to go and have a go for it. I cast, fish came out, took it really quickly, and I missed it. But I'm sort of fishing up from the bank here, and the river's probably 35 feet wide, and there's two flows. There's one into my bank and then against the far bank, and in the middle, almost splitting it, is a section of weeds. It almost looks like, I guess, the back of a dragon would be the best way I would describe it, where the reeds are sort of pushed back and the bigger ones are at the front, and then they get smaller and smaller. And I saw a fish rise in there, covered it, and obviously because we're on the chalk stream here, there's no wading, so I've covered it from the bank. Fish has taken, nice, really nice take, lifted into it. Could feel there was a nicest sort of fish on the end, but couldn't tell really initially what it was. Fish went into one bit of weed and very kindly swam out of it again, and then came into one of the thicker bits and again came out of it, and I managed to net it. And it was a grayling. It was a really nice grayling, just over £1.5 pounds on, took a little size 20 emerger dry. So really, really pleased with that. Absolutely stunning fish, really, really pretty. And waited for a bit, dried off my fly, saw another fish rise tight against the far bank, and it was sort of off the fast water on the far side, so I had to put a big reach in to get some semblance of a drift. Rise, nice trout, took it, and again it was really kind to me and came out, went into the weed, and I sort of let it have a little bit of slack, and it came out and managed to net that. And so really it's been a lovely little spot. It's a tricky one to fish because of covering the fish, getting across your near side fast flow, but then also there's slack water in between, so drag's going to be a big issue. Then you've got the reeds to contend with as well, but they're really nice. I've seen another fish rise in there. There's a mallard just swum through there, and it's stopped for the time being. I'm just going to give it a few minutes and see if this guy comes again. Brett's upstream of me a little bit further, and it's just, again, feels close. It's overcast. The rain's eased again. We're sort of getting little showers, but I think I described earlier that there'd been, little tiny little bit of hatch of olives that I think has sort of provoked the fish to look a little bit more skywards at the moment. So dry seems to be working really well for me, and as has the nymph for Brett too. So it's been really, really cool. It's a nice little follow-up to this, that I was just walking up to see how Brett was getting on, and the fish that I missed earlier that I described that I was seeing rise, I heard a kersplush nearby where my feet were, so I just took a step downstream, really, really short line, flipped the fly onto the water, and got really, really lucky and had that fish as well. So it was a grayling, about £1 pound. But yeah, it was really cool. I feel that where I'd stuffed it before, that getting a much more positive take than previously. I think when I was casting at it from further downstream, drift or drag may have been an issue, but also I suspect it may have had to move a little bit further, built up to travel to take the fly, built up a little bit of momentum, and mainly my fault. But that one was sort of almost under the rod tip, just a tiny bit upstream, but really, really close. So I got a chance to set on it, and good, lovely, positive take. One of the things I really love about this is the chance to sit down. Brett and I we've sat down, we've talked, we've had quite a heavy conversation, actually, putting the world to rights about many things. We've had a really, really cool lunch. We're just sitting here relaxing at the moment. We've smoked a cigar. He very kindly bought a couple of Cohibas along, so we've sat and smoked those, enjoyed those, talked about many things that I won't bore you with right now, but many, many things. And we're going to fish again. But it's been, the morning session has been really good. The lunch has been a little bit later because the fish were just coming on, and we were talking about it, and I'd seen some fish rise in faster water. I talked about the olives, and that's the sort of place I'd found fish in the faster little runs, I guess picking up olives as they're emerging through the water column and picking those up. It was a pleasure watching Brett fish, and I could see he was upstream of me and he hadn't moved. So there was obviously something going on. And I said, "How's it going, bud?" And he looked at me, cast, and then lifted into a fish that just screamed off upstream and completely smoked me, he said. And I think that's exactly what it was. It was a big fish, and unfortunately just came off towards the end. Didn't break him. He got his fly back, but they're the sort of moments that you see from afar. And I'd sort of stuck with the was that on a dry, that one? Or no. So that one was on a nymph. I'd sort of stuck with the dry and been picking up the odd fish, which has been really cool. It looks as though the rain for the time being is holding back, at least. So it's sort of pretty overcast. It's milder. We're not sitting in rain jackets while we're sitting here chatting at the moment. But it's been a really fun session on the river so far this morning, hasn't it? Oh,
it's been awesome. Like I said, I think it's nice and warm now. There's a few hatches coming off. I've seen a few sedges sitting around on the car. Our bellies are full. I think it's time to go and catch one or two more, mate, isn't it?
I reckon so. We'll give it a go. We're going to walk downstream a little ways and see what we can find. River, where we are at the moment, looks a little bit narrower, a little bit more challenging. I've been fishing with a 9-foot 3-weight a Gatti rod. And what is it you've been fishing with, Brett?
I've been fishing my 10-foot 4-weight. It's the Helios 3, and I just like it because of the line control, especially controlling the nymphs through the water column. And it can stop some monsters when you hook them, but it's delicate enough to pick up the smaller, wilder fish too. So I like it. So it'd be interesting how we get on this slightly narrower stretch this afternoon.
And you got on the handle of your rod some really cool artwork. And as somebody who's a horrific changer of fishing tackle and stuff like that, I could see mine sort of ending up in the cupboard. But I guess it's incentive to fish it. But tell us a little bit about what you had done there and what the artwork is.
Yeah, so as I always like to try and personalise my tackle. Like you said, I suppose that the true meaning behind that means that you have to kind of stay put and stick with it. I don't suppose anybody will want a rod with my initials on it, but it's I found an artist that's based out in America, and he personalised the cork handles. And I caught a nice fish out in Iceland last year, and it was on this rod, and I just wanted to commemorate that moment really. So I begrudgingly sent off a section of my rod over to him, and he sent it back a few weeks later, and it's just got a beautiful piece of artwork on it of the fish on it. So we'll get a picture of it and we can show you along with this little talk. But it'd be nice for you to see. It's just an extra little bit of detail on your fishing tackle, and that's what I'm about really. I'm a bit of a tackle type, if I'm being honest with you.
Nice. What do you reckon? Should we go and see if we can find some munchers?
Yeah, come on.
So the afternoon's been a little bit different. The cloud that I'd been talking about has cleared through, and the sun on the water at the moment. And we found we've had to work at the fish a little bit more. The thing we've been most excited about, I think, we were just chatting about it, was the grayling, and there's some nice grayling. And it's meant that I caught a nice one and a few on dries this morning. This afternoon, it feels as though, and looking at them, they're sort of hugging the bottom pretty tightly. So we've gone for nymphs, inducing. We picked up some trout. I just had a nice trout on that came off right at the net due to me more than anything else. And we've picked up fish here and there, but it's been more of a war of attrition. I say attrition because it's been really, really good fun spotting fish for each other, netting fish for each other. But it's been a different river this afternoon, mate, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, I think the ones that have kind of got the better of us today are the grayling. I think some of the grayling here are actually, well, there's one I think it's the biggest grayling I've ever seen. And as much as we were chucking everything at it, we just couldn't get it to eat. But it's been a wonderful day, wonderful afternoon. Like you said, the change in the weather has really made a big difference, but we've still got the evening to come.
Absolutely, because there's not been a lot of fly life around this afternoon, actually, has there? We've seen the odd caddis, and that's been about it, really, isn't it?
No, it's funny. It's like while we were having our lunch, we saw a few caddis flying around and landing on the car. We thought, well, here we go. We're in for a bit of fun here, and it just seems to have slowed down a little bit. But that's fishing, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Well, we'll crack on, have a wander up. We've barely covered much water this afternoon. We've probably flipped in a few places, but not many. And that's been the fun again. You know, the river not very wide here, 10, 12 feet wide, and being able to spot those fish and see their reaction has been deeply cool as well. So we're going to keep cracking on and see how we get on. I suspect the dries are going to stay on the fly patch for the time being, but we'll see. And it's been fun watching the fish's reaction to the flies as they approach them as well. So we're just back at the Carls now. We're laughing about the mix of weather we've had, and there's no doubting that the fishing's got a little bit tougher as the afternoon's got on. It's got brighter, it's got warmer. We were discussing, would it be worth waiting for last knockings, and Brett was out on the river last night and said he did that, and it didn't really happen. The fishing has been really good. We've caught plenty of fish. We've had a great time. It's really interesting fishing. The grayling are just amazing. They were too smart for us on the day. There was some phenomenal fish in there that we pitted our wits against, but they were a little bit too smart for us today. But it's been amazing, absolutely amazing. Mate, it's been fabulous fishing with you, as it always is. We just have a fun time chatting about everything and nothing, and I've just loved being on the water again with you today, bud.
Well, it's been too long. Obviously, we've not seen each other through those horrible dark days of COVID, and we've talked about getting together and going fishing, and today's just been worth it, hasn't it? We've caught some wonderful wild brown trout with beautiful red spots all over them, and you caught a cracking grayling. And there was some much bigger grayling in there that got the better of both of us, but that's what will keep us coming back for next time. But it's been a cracking day, mate. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, bud. It's been brilliant. As always, and it always is, it's just fun fishing with people who feel the same as you. It's not competitive, it's fun. We take it in turns. We say, no, you go, you have a go, and that's what I love about it. And, we could have probably sat on fish a little bit longer, but you know what? It's nice to doff your cap sometimes and say, yeah, you got me today, but perhaps I'll come back another day. But I hope you've enjoyed this one as well, out on the water and with a good friend. I'm really pleased we booked this. We booked the fishing through Aardvark McLeod, through Alex there at the time. And I think those day tickets are still available. So if you fancy it, I'm really pleased I booked it, and really, really enjoyed my day. So I hope you've enjoyed the day with us on the water today as well. And thanks so much for listening to the Fly Culture Podcast.
The Fly Culture Podcast is brought to you in association with Fly Culture, a quarterly print magazine. For more information, please visit flyculturemag.com. You can also find Fly Culture on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter.